Do you remember 20 years ago, there was a company online that was selling real estate on the moon? I thought that was completely nuts, and wow, I have something even more nutty for you today. We're gonna talk about Decentraland and Sand, the two big metaverses on the scene. We're gonna go over 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages of these metaverses. I can't believe it. Just thinking about them kind of blows my mind, this whole metaverse concept. But before we jump into it, I just want to create a framework for these 2 metaverse cryptocurrency projects based on the Ethereum network. We're going to look at them, but first you just have to understand and wrap your head around this concept. 2 different worlds where there is real estate for sale in this virtual reality. And just think about that for a second. Let that sink in, because at first when I thought about it, I thought, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But now that I'm diving in a bit deeper, I'm gonna show you maybe it's not so dumb. Maybe there's a lot of value to be had here. Let's find out. Let's just jump right into it. So first I wanna talk about Decentraland. It has 90,601 parcels of land available. So right now, you can go and play this game. You can walk around and you can start to experience Decentraland by yourself with a MetaMask installed. Now, one thing I found interesting is you do kind of have to have a MetaMask installed, which makes sense. You know, it's very interesting to see how, as the future progresses, especially as we go into Web3, how the browser is going to kind of be your bank account in a way, right? So typically, you'd have to enter in your card and do all that if you wanted to sign up for things. Well, now you're just gonna have a MetaMask or your own sort of bank extension that gives you access to different applications. Very different, but it's very commonplace amongst cryptocurrencies now. And I think it's gonna be that way moving forward because it's a way to carry your identity and your wallet with you throughout different applications. Let's just start out with Decentraland. We're gonna start out with the first advantage is that the land in Decentraland is actually an NFT. It's a non-fungible token. So it's a digitized asset that can be resold. So when you think of traditional real estate, it's very complicated to resell a piece of real estate. It's very difficult to sell real estate. I don't even know what I should call this. If I should call it virtual estate, virtual real estate, I'm not sure. But I do think it's interesting how it's so difficult to sell a traditional piece of real estate, but a digital asset can be sold very quickly in 5 minutes. No lawyers are needed, no overhead cost. It can be done real fast. So that's a huge advantage right there when we think of digital land. Advantage number 2. You can actually develop it to be revenue generating. So when you think of land in terms of just land today, traditional real land, you can develop a business on it, right? You can put up condos, you could put up apartments, you could build a house. You can do a lot of different things with it that can be revenue generating, but the problem is it requires a lot of overhead. So one nice thing about virtual land is you can develop it. It doesn't have the overhead. You don't have maintenance fees. You don't have all these other overhead costs that would be associated with real land. So right there, you eliminate all the overhead and can still generate a lot of profit through it. Very interesting to think about building up businesses on virtual land that people interact with and experience. One other big advantage, and this is a part of part 2, is that you could actually rent out the land to other businesses, or you could even rent out advertising space on your land. So let's say you have a piece of land that has a lot of traffic. You could rent out your advertising space or a billboard on your property that maybe Verizon might buy or that maybe Comcast might buy, right? So these are ways that I'm starting to think about that you can actually make money in this virtual world, this metaverse. So that's the second real advantage, and it's making my mind spin just thinking about these advantages because I think a lot of people don't see it this way or don't recognize it yet, that this is where the world may be headed overall, it's very interesting and it's very different. You have to really wrap your mind around it. Reason number 3, the big advantage number 3 is that it's scarce, right? We know there's only 90,601 plots of land in this virtual land, and that right there is scarcity all in itself. So when we look at this and we head over to the map, right? This is the map of Decentraland. There's plots for sale. These blue sections are plots for sale that you can go and buy, and they're crazy expensive. One that I have pulled up right now is going for 1,500,000 mana. And right now, mana is roughly $5. So you do the math, it's in the millions. This is totally crazy to think about, but it actually might be worth it if you get a lot of traffic and can then rent out the space, sell it to businesses. Wild to think about that a piece of virtual land might actually be more profitable than a piece of real land. Crazy to think about, but it really can happen. If you think about the amount of players that could be in this virtual world, it might be worth it. So this is the land of Decentraland, but let's take a look at Sandbox, which is another competitor to Decentraland. If we just go right over to the map, we can see here that currently, there are plots of land being sold on OpenSea as NFTs. So this is the map, and these white plots of land are for sale right now. So you can head over to OpenSea and purchase these. A lot of these are a little bit cheaper than Decentraland's parcels, but they're still in the thousands, if not millions. So they're not cheap by any means. And that's the crazy thing about this virtual land. So now I want to talk about the 3 disadvantages that I see. And that is that right now, this is all hocus pocus. We don't know where this is going to really go. We don't know if a lot of players are going to be jumping on board and using these virtual worlds. We don't really know how far it's going to go. We also haven't seen businesses generating revenue through these virtual worlds yet. At least I'm not aware of any, and I tried digging online to find some, but I couldn't come up with any. I think it's going to happen, but we don't really know when that is. So that is another big disadvantage, is that a lot of it is speculation right now, and you just kind of have to hope that that's where this is going to go. So disadvantage number 2 is if other metaverses become popular. You know, we have Facebook now building out its own metaverse. Imagine that now everybody switches over to the Facebook platform and Decentraland doesn't become popular, the player base drops, and everybody heads over to use Facebook's metaverse. Your real estate is dependent on the player base and is dependent upon how valuable the real estate is based on the foot traffic generated throughout the virtual world. So over time, your land actually may decrease in value, and it may not be as valuable if the player base drops. And some of these things are unpredictable because you just don't know what competition's in the marketplace or what competition may come up. So disadvantage number 3 is that your cash is locked up in a hard asset. You're buying an NFT with the hopes to be able to either flip it as a profit or be able to build out a revenue generating business on top of that piece of land. And your cash is locked up. Even though it is more easily sellable, it's still a process to sell it. It's not like you just go on an exchange and dump your bag of coins and you can leave and be done with it. So you still have to think about that in the sense that part of the same hard asset rules do apply to this model. And that's what I want you guys to really think about. When I think about this more and more, it becomes attractive. We just don't quite know where it's gonna go. So there is a big gamble at play here. If you have extra money and kind of a lot of extra money, then maybe this is the place to put it. We don't know. It's still very speculative at this point, but it is very interesting and something I'm going to continue to monitor. And I'm also going to look at what other metaverse solutions are coming up, because maybe Decentraland is too expensive right now, and also maybe the Sandbox is too expensive. So we may have other metaverses coming up that'll be a lot cheaper to get in on early, where we can be more profitable, and that may actually have better technology behind them. So these are the things to think about if you want to buy some virtual land. So should you buy virtual land? Answer's unknown. We don't really know where it's going to go, and we don't have the numbers behind real estate to back this up like you do with traditional real estate, where you have cap rates and you can see the revenue being generated. We don't have this stuff yet. So I can't wait to see where it goes. We're not quite there yet, but as always, guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed the content and want more videos just like this. Also, click the subscribe and comment below. Let me know, what do you think about virtual land? Is it something you want to buy? Do you like hard assets like this? I want to hear from you guys, and I look forward to catching you in my next video.